Welcome back to another entertainment roundup. I'm J77, and got a couple stories I want to talk about. I will be talking about my experience, not the movie of Spectre. That's going to be a separate review right after this. I'm actually going to be doing two recordings. I'm going to be up pretty much all night doing this, and as well as getting ready for my J&J Mondays on a Sunday with my partner Josh again. But I wanted to get some stuff out the way. I want to make this pretty much the start of the week because there's going to be a lot of videos I'm going to be posting this week. So I wanted to get started with the entertainment round because a lot of stuff has happened within the last 24 hours after recording this podcast, and it involves Donald Trump. It involved NBC. It involved the protesters, but most of all, it just involves the atmosphere surrounding Trump. Let's get started right here. Unless you have not been following the news of late, there was a huge group of protesters out on NBC, pretty much from both sides, those who are against Trump hosting Saturday Night Live and those who are actually for Donald Trump hosting Saturday Night Live, citing his freedom of speech. Even though I want to make this very clear, just because you have the freedom of speech doesn't mean you have the right to host a TV show. It just means you have the right to say whichever want to say, as well as you have the right to agree or disagree and voice your own opinion on this. I have my opinions on the whole situation, but so it ain't going to be with Donald Trump. It's going to be with NBC and what they have shown and why I want people to understand why you should never take to heart what news media have said, because no matter what it is, no matter what they claim they stand for, if something gives them ratings, they're going to jump at it, and this is exactly what this is, folks. Let's be realistic. The only reason why they got him on Saturday Night Live is because he is right now the hottest thing that's going on entertainment media. I say that because that's basically why he's popular. He's entertaining to a lot of people. Yeah, there are some people who gets riled up and probably for the wrong reasons, but he is a guy who's definitely has cornered the social media network, the news media network, as well as some of the local newspapers. He's all over the place, and he has single-handedly, within the few months that he has made his announcement to run, he has single-handedly had made this. He's pretty much put a cloud all over the entire Republican Party. This man has single-handedly have put a muzzle on any other Republican candidate that is out there. Keep in mind how many candidates are running, and keep in mind how many candidates are actually are in distance with Donald Trump. Right now, there are candidates who right now may not survive January. And these are candidates I did not even expect them to be this low. Chris Christie comes to mind. Chris Christie, I thought will be pretty much within the teens, and basically will be part of the mix when it comes to the presidential nominee in the GOP side. He is pretty much in danger of pretty much being knocked out, and largely because now he's not even invited to one of the primaries because his polls are so low. George Pataki, I forgot he was running. I totally forgot he was running. That's how irrelevant he has become in these debates in pretty much in the polls. I totally forgot he was actually involved in this. And then you have Ted Cruz, which I'm surprised people still take him seriously, who's pretty much been out talked by Trump in the whole entire beginning. So really, if you look at it, it's Trump really versus Bush at this point, because that's the only two I see right now who will be pretty much where the GOP will be giving their votes to. I don't see anybody else there. There are some who saw glimpses of high ratings, but really, if you look at it, it's really the only person who actually had a big presence is Jeff Bush, and no one else really. And that's exactly why you're seeing Trump everywhere. He has become so popular that the media will pretty much talk about him and basically no one else. And he has definitely, and part of it is his doing. He has actually been all over the media saying a lot of crazy stuff, a lot of stuff that just scratch your head. And people eat it up. Granted, it's for the wrong reasons sometimes, but they eat it up. He's entertainment to a lot of people, and that's why they got him. They didn't get him because they thought he was a good host. They got him because he's a rating push, and they will give him ratings. Even if those who don't like him, they'll watch him just for a few glimpses of seconds to see what he does. That's why they got him. All right. So they can say what you want about rewarding him. Yeah, they all reward him because they give him a platform, and even he said it himself. Hey, look, this is going to be great for me. It's going to help my cause, and that's where my beef comes in. All right, and it's not even with Donald Trump. It's more with NBC, and the protesters going to say what they have to say. And I have no problem with both sides coming out and even supporting or basically going against Donald Trump because, frankly, they're part of the ridiculousness that the media has been putting out. Listen, I haven't forgotten. Not too long ago, NBC have cut ties with Donald Trump in terms of the Apprentice or any other shows. Like I think the pageants, which I actually forgot he actually was part owner of. They actually severed ties with him. They said they didn't want no one like that, who said those kind of crazy things to represent their show. So how come all of a sudden, after saying all that stuff, do you have him on Saturday Night Live? It is your show. It is. Even though he doesn't have a show on your network anymore, you're still inviting him to do something on your show. So basically, everything you just have done or said or claims the reason why you let him go is irrelevant because you're still giving him something. And let's get this clear right now. Donald Trump didn't call them. I know a lot of people say, well, maybe he called them and invited them. Donald Trump, in case you haven't noticed, Donald Trump has an ego the size of Texas right now. He is just so full of himself. It's not even funny. It's amazing how he shows off his ego. He has a huge ego. He's never wrong, according to Donald Trump's eyes. And he really thinks he is the be all of politics and entertainment. And all you need to do is look at some of the documentaries that was done. His recent talks with, I think, 60 Minutes, when he had magazines of himself all over his office table. Are you kidding me? You really think a man like that is going to call NBC and say, yo, look, I really want to host Saturday Night Live? No, they called him. They practically begged him to go on the show. And Donald Trump, knowing what Donald Trump does, say, hey, this is a good platform for me. It will work for me. It's going to help boost my cause, which it will. Went on the show. And guess what? The media is talking about it. The people who can't stand him, who think he's a racist and an anti-immigrants and all this, they're going to talk about it with the news media. Those who are supporting him, claiming freedom of speech, they're going to support him. And guess what? He gets what he wants. He wins. Congratulations, NBC. Congratulations. You definitely prove why some of the stuff you say, along with a lot of the news media, means nothing. Because in the end, when all that stuff you're saying about, oh, we want to, we don't want someone who talks all that discriminatory, racist remarks to represent our networks, it didn't mean anything because you still got him on some kind of form that he can use. You basically just say, hey, you know what? Forget about it. This guy's a ratings pool. Let's get him on. Because if you think they did it because of his politics, you're wrong. They did it because they knew this was going to boost ratings. So, if anything you get out of this, folks, and look, I don't know the results of the election. I really don't. It could be a possibility because of the popularity that he's been getting lately. Whether you think it's negative or not, maybe just enough he needs to get elected. I've seen crazy things happen before. I hope that the American voters, and I'm an American voter myself, can see past the nonsense that's been going on. The distraction that the media has done, because they definitely did that, and actually focus on the real issues at hand. But right now, between Donald Trump, it's not about the issues. It's about the entertainment value that he brings to the networks. That's what this is all about. So you can have your Saturday Night fame and everything else. The reality is, when the push comes to shove, I will know if he really is this upset with Donald Trump, if he get the Republican nominee, or more so get nominated as president. If he becomes president of the United States, and it's still a possibility, then mission accomplished. He accomplished his mission, and no one who said they hated Trump, no one who says that they don't think he's electable, cannot say come back on the radio or come on any kind of social network, come on any kind of platform or blogging, whatever, and tell me they didn't like the guy. If he didn't like the guy, he shouldn't have been in the office to begin with. And like I said, I take the most of the blame. Got to go with the media. The media knows what they're doing. Trust me when I say that, because there's no coinkydink that all these politicians and Trump, which by the way haven't really spent much in terms of campaigning because the media have gave him all the campaigning attention he needs. He didn't need to spend a damn dime. What ad have you seen this man have thrown since he came in? He don't need it. The news just gave it for him. He's only recently just announced he's going to spend money on ad campaigns. But that's the whole point. The media is making him more than what he should be. And I sat down and I listened to what he had to say, and he really has no real true agenda, in my opinion. You guys may see he does. He may wind you up. You know what? Let's go find Danny. What is his agenda? What is his world point? What is he planning to do? How is he going to help the people in this state? All I heard is that he's going to make this country rich again. That's cold word saying I'll make my friends rich. He's not going to make this country rich. This country is not bad, not bad at all, but many people believe. Every time he's turning around and he's saying, I got lots of money. So? You think I really care about how much money you got in the bank? Or how much money you're pulling in annually or daily? I don't give a damn about that. We got a housing crisis in New York and across the country. Affordable housing is gone, almost non-existent now. That's more important. How you going to develop new jobs in this country? How you going to keep jobs from leaving this country? That's important. Are you going to, close the gap between the poor and the rich? That's important. Immigration reform, which has been the forever going conversation. Something that, by the way, you have made a very crazy statement. That's important. All those things are important. Everything else you're saying is irrelevant. Your money is irrelevant. How much covers in the magazine is irrelevant. Okay, so your father, I got nothing against that. I keep children out of the politics as much as I can. But that's irrelevant. I care less. You got wonderful children. Great. I'm happy. I'm not saying you're a bad father, but you know what? That's irrelevant. You're running for the highest office in the land. And you have no real experience in any kind of position other than the business that you have ran. Which, by the way, wasn't that great to begin with. But you're bragging about. That's something that I'm more concerned about. If you went bankrupt 4 times, what makes you think you won't bankrupt the country? See, these are the things that should be asked. These are the things that I'm more concerned about. Not how popular this guy is. In terms of him saying all crazy things and him bragging about how much dough he has. That's not important to me. And it shouldn't be important to any American voter out there. But I've seen crazier things happen when it comes to these elections. And I'm hoping that behind the stupid facade that the media have, and the media, is something else, they should at least cover somebody else for change and let me see what these other guys have. Again, Ted Cruz, Pataki, and even the most surprisingly, Chris Christie may not survive past January. And a lot of it has to do because, number one, all the attention has been pushed on Donald Trump. So before the protesters go out and basically make a scene about it, and I understand they're mad. That's great. I'm glad they're upset. I'm glad they're paying attention to what's being going on. I think in terms, you should show that anger in the voting when it comes to election day. You should see it. I should see that. I should see that same amount of anger being put to during election day. And as for those who feel that he has a right to host it and then it shouldn't infringe on his freedom of speech because what he said, listen, he has a right to say what he wants, and that's agreeable. He has that freedom to do so. But you know what? It doesn't mean that his freedom includes him hosting a show. But again, this is just the part of the problem. Both sides of the coin are being used to further promote and to further boost this guy's ego. And NBC, who made all that talk about how we're not going to associate ourselves with this guy anymore and how they say that we can't do business with the guy anymore. You still showed him up. You still put him on your one of your shows, which make everything you said, regardless if it was business or not, irrelevant. And because of that, you gave him more um, publicity than he really needs or should deserve. And to me, if you want to be more angry, don't get angry with Donald Trump. Get angry with NBC. Because NBC proved just how much of a hypocrite they were when it came to that situation. You cannot say to people that you're not going to do business with someone or not associate yourself with someone and yet have him be a part of Saturday Night Live. I don't care how, controversial Saturday Night Live is or, how much of a daring it's going to be. You cannot say one thing and do another because everybody's going to see right through it that this is nothing more than a ratings ploy. No more, no less. I'd like to hear your opinion on this, guys. I really do. I really like to hear what you guys have to say about this. Normally I don't put politics on Entertainment Roundup, but he is an entertaining figure. And Saturday Night Live is part of our entertainment culture. Has been a part of that for years. But I'd like to hear what you have to say about this. I really do. I'd like to hear what your opinion is. Whether you think that NBC was not in the wrong, or you think NBC was in the right. I'd like to hear it. I'd like to hear what you got to say. And with that, let's move on. Beasts of No Nation is a movie that DoubleToast.com had talked about. A lot of media coverage have been talking about it in the entertainment side. It has gotten huge rave reviews. A lot of critics did review the movie. I haven't yet to see the film because it's very hard to find it in theaters. And for this reason, a lot of theaters have simply refused to put this on their movie lineup. Now, there's a lot of reasons for this. But it's also, again, kind of hypocritical in the movie theater's part, and I'll explain later. Now, Beast of Nation is a very controversial film, and I thought that this was the reason why they actually decided we don't want nothing to do with this movie. But it turns out there's a lot more to meet the eye than what I actually thought it was. Apparently, Netflix, which is the company who released this movie, wanted this to be an Oscar contender. Lucius Alba, who is, for what I understand, did a great job of playing probably one of the most difficult and heart-wrenching films to date. A film that really brings attention towards child slavery in Africa and how harsh it is and how much people need to start paying better attention and start doing something instead of sitting back and not caring. This movie is one of those films that brings a realistic view to what's going on. And Netflix was very proud of this film to the point where they actually decided to try to push it as an Oscar film by releasing it in theaters. I don't have a problem with this. However, they did something else that I think that drew a lot of people really upset, and that is they wanted to release it in theaters and release it on Netflix at the same time. This didn't vote well with a lot of movie theaters, and in fact, a lot of movie theaters had protests against this movie. I was a bit mixed on this because wasn't shocked that Netflix was attempting to do this. This is, after all, their bread and butter here. This is something that they are branching out, and Netflix over the past few years have evolved from what they were, being just a rental video store, to a streaming to actually bring in original content. And that's largely because they had no choice. A lot of stuff they was losing, studios was pulling out movies, and they said, we got to fill the gap. And what ended up happening was they actually got some high quality entertainment that no one expected to actually see on their lineup, from Orange is the New Black to the Daredevil. They have really stepped up their game, and for the better, and have given even the networks on TV a run for their money. They have really done a great job. So it's no surprise they wanted to go into the movie division and do this. The problem, what they want to have their cake and eat it too, and the theaters wasn't going for that. I would have signed for the theaters on this a little bit. I understand why they're saying this, because they're not getting much of the cut. You're cutting their revenue in half. So by playing this movie, they're not going to really gain much. And Netflix, they own the rights. They can say, we're going to be in here for 2 weeks and we're going to pull it. Movies generally don't make the theaters money until what, probably off their second or third week. A lot of the money, pretty much 75% of the money, goes right straight to Hollywood, goes right straight to the studios. They rarely get a portion of that. All their money pretty much is going for the popcorns and the chips and the sodas. You know, that $9 soda. That's why they charge that much money, because they're not getting much from their ticket receipts. The theater, the studios are getting it, and it's been pretty much a messed up battle between those two. They really getting hardly anything for dispute from showing their movies. They're reaping most of the profits from it, and what that's pretty much where we're seeing with the theaters, like, hey, you're going to take it out after a few weeks, and yet you're going to hurt us even more by basically putting it in theaters, even though they can still get it on Netflix. That don't make no sense. And so the protest has begun saying, we're not going to cover this movie. Now, there are some who bent over and said, you know what, I'm not going to, fight it, just put it in theaters and just see what happens. And there are some people who have actually seen it, some critics have actually seen it. So there are some, and toward the bend over thing that was not intended to be an offensive thing, I'm just trying to say they basically, basically you said, you know what, whatever, we'll show it, and then if it makes money for us, great. If not, then no big deal, because we have other movie lineups in there to to fill in the void. So with that being said, there were a lot of people who were not very upset about that. The movie theaters union was not happy about it, and they basically, had made it very difficult for Netflix to actually pull that off. They still in certain selected theaters. It's harder to find in New York, surprisingly, because there ain't that many mom and pop theaters. I believe there was a couple of art house theaters are doing it, but it's going to be very much a struggle. It's going to be very, very hard for this movie to get that push because of what Netflix is trying to do. Now, I'm mixed with this. I understand completely why the theaters are doing this. They're not trying to make this into a habit where the networks are going to push their movies just for one reason only, and after 1 or 2 weeks pull it back out. And that's basically all it needs. That thing needs to be in there in 2 weeks to be recognized. And once that's been recognized by the critics and some people who've seen it, they can finally pull that back out. It's considered by rule a theater release. They had a lot of movie companies done that. Sharknado was only out for 1 day, and that was considered a theater release by a lot of people. But so by them coming out there, it gives them an open opportunity to get recognized by the award committees, whether it be the Golden Globes, the Academy, whatever movie awards are coming out this season. With that being said, it is pretty much a sneaky move from them to do that, considering that their only intention is to get nominated, not considering how much it's going to cost the movie theaters to play the reel, to how much they're standing to lose just by playing a movie that they know probably was not going to be there too long, and that how much money they're going to miss by playing a movie that actually could bring in profits for them during that first crucial weekend. So it's a definitely no-win situation. But this is again my point I said a few years ago during my early video days. This is why I saying that movie theaters, in many ways, we're seeing the last days of them. Because a lot of movies, Netflix wasn't the first one to done this. All right, there are a lot of movies that's out right now, and you can also find in video demand. Like for instance, the Scout's Guide to Surviving a Zombie Apocalypse. That's one of those movies. A movie that is done very low budget. You can there's actually a theater that's playing that movie. It's only on one time only, but it's still being played in that theater, and you can get on video demand. So the only difference is that they actually get profits from both sides of the coin. But the point is that video on demand is becoming a big thing. A lot of movies most of you guys didn't even heard actually exist, came on video on demand. You just get it. I did a review on a film that came on video demand thanks to my friend. It was a Mel Gibson film that was released everywhere else, but was not released in the U.S. It was released on video demand. It was a very good film. This is what we're seeing right now. A lot of the movie theater experience, and this is pretty much largely because of my experience watching Spectre. Many people don't want to deal with the movie theaters anymore. Many people don't want to deal with the overpriced popcorn. Many people don't want to deal with the sodas that cost like $9. Many people don't want to deal with the nonsense that people walking back and forth and, basically cutting off their view, having their cell phones on, whether it's on vibrate or not. Man, we're starting to see a trend where a lot of movies now are bypassing theaters. There are movies that are being released very, very quickly out of theaters to be put on video demand, which is something that the theater industry has been fighting for years now. This was a big thing where a certain amount of blockbusters. It was one of those years where a lot of theater was threatening to not show these movies. Have they been released after 3 weeks, after 4 weeks, because they depend on these movies to be successful and have a running life where they can make some money. And for the studio to say, "Oh, after 2 weeks, we're gonna pull it and put it on video demand," that's taking the profit out of their hands. It's already bad enough they're not reaping much profit from the movies which they're showing. Now you're pretty much gonna hurt them even more by actually pulling the movies while just when they start to make them some profit to put on video on demand, and the theaters are not going for it. But I gotta be honest with you, with the way some of these theaters have been closing of the last few years, to the way people are getting their entertainment, it's gonna be very, very hard unless the movie industry tries something different and tries something that's very creative. It's gonna be very hard for a lot of these theaters, especially mom and pop theaters, to hang on, especially with the new wave that people are getting entertainment. Streaming has become the new television set. YouTube has become the new television set. Hardly anybody watches free TV on TV anymore, and hardly anybody really wants to go to the theaters anymore because it's gotten so expensive. It is is not cheap as it once was. It's not a cheap form of entertainment, and it has not been for quite some time. And so we're sort of seeing a trend where we're seeing a lot of people getting their entertainment not from theaters but through streaming, and that's where the new future is waving for most of these movie makers. Get it for streaming, get it on video on demand. You see it at home. You're in the comfort of your own home, and that's it. Now, am I going to stop with the movie experience? I love the movie theater experience when there's actually real feel for the movie theater experience. What I mean is, I go there, I enjoy myself. I don't have to worry about knuckleheads doing something stupid, or worry about who's keep going back and forth in the theaters. When it's a good experience, it's a good experience. I like to see that film for the first time in the big screen. That's something I always treasure. Something I always will do until the time where I can't do it no more. With that being said, I can't ignore the fact that a lot of theaters are not cheap. I can't ignore the fact that there is a lot of movies that they want you to pay for that doesn't deserve the price they're asking for, especially those 3D movies, which really not in 3D. So the movie theaters in many cells have hurt themselves, and in many ways, not to some of their fault, because I know that's the studio's way of trying to push more money out of people. But in many ways, the theaters haven't made it very family friendly either, and that's where the key is. They're not making it very family friendly. They're not making it wallet friendly, and it's hard to justify anyone who's barely making ends meet to sell out so much money for a movie when they can actually buy 2 movies or watch 6 movies at the comfort of home just by streaming. So this is something that I think the theaters need to really come to grips with and try to find some form of convincing people, hey, the movie experience is still the best experience to have, and this is the reason why, and not just sit on themselves and thinking that that the studio is going to look out for them. Because I got news for you: the studio's looking for other ways to making money and looking to go around the theater experience. They're not trying to stay with that for too long, and you can tell by a lot of studios doing what they're doing. You have some films, and this is one of the reasons why I was kind of surprised that they said they wanted to protest Beast of No Nation, but they didn't protest Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse. I'm kind of curious how that worked out, because you can get it either in theaters or in video on demand. So I didn't see what's the big gripe with this one, but it is something that is happening. And to be fair and honest, I think that the theaters, although I think the experience of watching a film for the first time is in a theater, they need to make it more where it's more worth their while, and not to where it's going to keep draining the wallets out of the people who are big time movie buffs. But that's my opinion. You guys may have something different. I like to hear what you have to say. I like to hear what you guys opinion on this. Whether you agree, disagree, whether you think that the theater is living on the last days or not. I like to hear what you have to say about it. Now let's get on to Quentin Tarantino Yes, I hold back long enough. Wow. You want to talk about a man who's been ridiculed in the press these days? That's the man right there. Even his father has spoken out against what he has said. Um, I must have missed that one because I didn't know this actually happened because I was actually at work and I didn't actually read the papers or actually look at any news outlets during that time. And keep in mind, I was actually in court a few times myself, dealing with some personal issues involving my living arrangement. So it's been a lot of crazy stuff going on. I didn't really pay attention to what was going on with Quentin Tarantino until I started to read up and hear what he had to say. And what he had to say, I just shook my head. I just couldn't believe he said or what he said, and being the fact that police already have enough problems as it is in terms of trust value, and some of this certainly so, considering the knuckleheads that gives police officers, whether in New York or New Jersey or Texas or all across the country, gives them these knuckleheads that gives them give these good, respectable, honest, brave men and women who serve our cities and serve our counties a bad name. However, I'm not stupid enough to go on a microphone and say that all cops are murderers. And this is where I think that Quentin Tarantino missed the point. It's one thing to criticize how the police have conducted themselves over the past decades. It's another thing to say that cops are murderers and racist because that's when you cross the line. That's where people are really upset about, and that's where the backlash is coming from. It's not the fact that he feels that the conflict aggression has gone out of hand, which it has. Is the fact that he labeled everyone in that basket. And I can tell you right now, not all cops are murderers or racist. There are some great cops out there who are sacrificing their lives to keep us safe. And that's something I think a lot of people seem to forget. There are some good cops out there who, one, has families. They have a mother who worries about them. They have a sister who's worried about them. They got a wife that's worried about them. They got children who's worried about them. They're worried that they're not gonna come home. These are real life situations that the cops deal with. They know what they sign on when taking the job, and this coming after the fact that we have lost another police officer to the hands of violence, and it doesn't look good. It doesn't look good at all, and it really paints a wrong picture of how certain police officers are, and they should never have. And he should never have said that. And in my opinion, he was out of line. However, if he doesn't want to apologize, and this is where it comes in, because I know the Post wish to be. I find it funny that they're trying to demand that he apologize when they didn't apologize themselves for calling the president of the United States a gorilla, or other racist statements that the Post have said that people tend to forget. I kind of find that ironic. If I'm gonna, if you're gonna force an apology from Quentin Tarantino, shouldn't the media have apologized for calling the Black Lives Matter movement a bunch of terrorists? Because that's exactly what they said. I find that offensive. I understand there's a bunch of knuckleheads who has put a bad light on the movement, but there are people who are very concerned, who are fed up by the police brutality of the police department, and how I feel, and I'm going to say it again, that our politicians are hiding under. They're using some of these guys as shield because they're the ones that just was responsible for making the dumb policies and the crazy memos to treat certain individuals in my city and in all other cities. They're the ones who have given the orders, but yet when the media comes after the cops, they want to hide behind them. They always support them and everything else. Here's a question: why don't you look at their policies and then make some changes? Now, Quentin Tarantino, I don't think he should be forced to apologize. If he doesn't want to apologize, that's fine. But he needs to understand one thing. You should never, I say this, ever label everyone in that group. And that's something he did. And number two, don't act shocked. Don't act surprised if you're getting the tongue lashing that you get, because you deserve it. I'm keeping it real. You deserve every last backlash you got from what you said, because it was out of line. It was wrong. Not to say that not to say that there are some issues that I have with the police department. I do, There's a whole lot of issues there, but I also understand that there are some good, decent, respectable police officers that also you put in that category, and they have every right to be offended, especially when fast food restaurants is this close to getting a $15 an hour raise, while the police department, who is sacrificing their lives on a daily basis, who's going on the street to parts unknown, their life is worth 1 cent to the city. A 1 cent raise, which every black police officer should be upset by. I'm risking my life, and my value is only 1%. By the way, they didn't get a raise for over years. You think that's fair? And I had an argument with a fellow worker of mine. I'm not gonna mention his name about it. He's very young, and he was upset. He said, "Look, these cops are murderers. They're killing people because they're racist." I said, "No, they're not. Don't let the media, because it's kind of funny. The media, like I said, and I said before, they're very biased. They look at this. They take the most negative thing and turn it into something more than what it is. But yet, when there's a story that's actually need to be reported, like a cop actually doing something for a woman who's in desperate need, or basically donating some clothes to a homeless guy, you never hear anything about that. Which, by the way, has happened a couple times in New York. You know where that story is? Page 16, near the little small section of other news going on in the local community. It's not even made the front page. But let a cop tackle some guy, let a cop, do something that's not even aggressive. They can't wait to grab it. They can't wait to sink your teeth on it. And if you think the media is on your side, guess what? Like I said before, if you want to demand an apology for what Quentin Tarantino said, I want an apology from every news media who called the Black Lives Movement a bunch of thugs and terrorists. If you're not going to apologize for that, don't ask for Quentin Tarantino to apologize. If he doesn't want to apologize, then fine. The only thing I ask for Quentin to do is understand what you said was online. What you said is wrong. It's one thing if you want to criticize the methods of the police doing. It's another thing to call them all murderers. You don't do that. Because not all of them are murderers. And like I said, I pray for a cop to do their job and go home to their loved ones. Which a lot of us, especially young people, seem to forget. They want to go up in arms saying all cops are doing. No, all cops are doing that. The cop did that to you yesterday, so don't say that all cops are doing that. And most importantly, and I'm going a little bit off the cuff with entertainment a little bit, can we start looking at our own community and see what we're doing wrong? And how we should keep some of our young kids accountable? Because it seems like we don't do that. And then we wonder why the cops act like the way they are. Gun violence has doubled in the last 2 years. It's not a coincidence. New Jersey just dealing with a situation where it was a drive-by shooting which left a girl in a hospital with a gunshot wound to the leg. Another woman got grazed and a man got killed. This kind of stuff happens. And we expect the cops not to react in a certain way. I'm just saying, before you want to get angry and call the cops this and that, stop and ask ourselves, what are we doing to assure that our neighbors are safe? What are we doing to make sure that this gun violence and violence among youths has been cut in half? But most of doing, what are we doing to communicate to the police department ourselves? It works both ways. You want the cops to communicate with the neighborhood. It should work both ways. The cops should communicate with the neighborhood. The neighborhood should communicate with the cops. They work in that community, yet we're so far apart from the community, and that's the problem. And Quentin Tarantino, he said a lot of stuff in the protest. I know he feel like he means well. I know he feel like that he's being the victim, which he's not. But the reality is, you said something that you should never have said. And to me, that's my problem with that. To me, you crossed the line. And that's how I see it. And that's why a lot of people see it. Whether you think of it or you believe it or not, you did cross the line. To me, again, doesn't say anything else. You're a good actor, great director, I don't think it's gonna hurt this movie at all. But please don't come up there and me and say I'm the victim, because you're not. You're not the victim. The criticism that you're getting is well deserved. However, if you don't want to apologize, fine. I can't. So I'm gonna force an apology for you for what? I feel you're out of line, and so there's a lot of other people. If you don't want to apologize for that, don't want to see that, then that's your discretion. Don't say you're a victim though, because those words came out of your mouth, and those words were completely wrong. Now, let's get on to a little bit of sports. We're still fresh off the World Series. Kansas City still pretty much is in Highland right now, and deservedly so. It's been 30 years you guys have won a championship. And I say right there, I'm very happy for you guys. Being a Yankee fan myself, and experiencing championship glory, what the Yankees do in the '90s and even in the thousands, I gotta give you, you gotta give you guys your props. You guys deserve it. With that being said, I do have to talk about something serious involving the Yankees, and involving a lot of people who are has a little bit mixed feelings, mostly negative towards CC Sabathia. Actually, guys probably have followed in the sporting area. CC Sabathia has checked himself into a rehab clinic for his alcoholism just prior to the Yankees going to the playoffs and playing a wild card game. Now, I don't know if the Yankees was going to use him as a starter or not. That's pretty much not important. But the important thing is that he had a serious issue, and it was spiraling out of control. And he decided to deal with it right then and there. And it took the manager by surprise, took the organization by the surprise, and even took a lot of fans by surprise. When I heard about this, I was just stunned. I'm like, wow, this is happening. I can't believe this. Yet at the same time, I'm not fooled by the fame. People are human. People have a lot of issues, some more serious than others. And despite what many fans may say, how can he do this now? Why he wait to this moment in time? I was very happy he had dealt with the problem. I'm very happy that he has confronted this issue and recognized that he needed to confront this issue. Keep in mind, when people have a problem like that, they don't think they have a problem. They are in so much complete denial, and they don't seek the help until it's too late, until it almost nearly ruined them. Sometimes they don't seek the help at all, and it destroys them. So the fact that he realized what path he was taking, if he continued down that road, really shows that he is serious about dealing with the issue. And keep in mind, I'm very, very iffy when I hear a celebrity saying I'm going to go to rehab, because most of the time when you hear it like this, it's because they got caught doing something, and the only way they can actually get good rapport with the judges or the prosecutioner is, let's go to rehab and show that we're serious about changing our life. Basically, faking it to make it. I don't think that's the case at all. I think he was very, very serious. I think he was very, very. He wanted to get his act together. I heard there was an incident in Toronto that pretty much enforced that situation. But again, I don't want to just throw something out there, especially when it's just that this happened, but there's really no proof that it actually happened. But needless to say, those were the signs that something was wrong. A lot of Yankee fans upset with him, and I think they need to lay off. I really do. First of all, yeah, it came out of left field. Yeah, it came out that the Yankees have clinched their first playoff berth in 2 years. Yes, he should have dealt with it sooner. But you know what? You don't know what's on the man's mind at that particular time. And to be honest with you, he did his life, his health comes before anything else. And I'm glad that he made the decision. And listen, like I said, the organization has stood by him. They are standing by him. His players are standing by him, and they actually support him. And that's the key word here. So if they are not no have no gripe about it, I don't think any Yankee fans shouldn't. Keep in mind, when it comes to a situation like this, it's a very, very difficult. First of all, it's very difficult for the person to come out and say, "Yeah, I got a drug problem, man. I really do." They feel ashamed sometimes that they show that kind of vulnerability, and for people to start acting out on CC Sabathia, it really shows why a lot of people sometimes don't seek help. A lot of times we don't tend to forget that when we're not judgmental on someone who has dealt with alcoholism and drugs, and a lot of time it becomes even more embarrassing for them to come forward and get the help they need, because it shows to them, it shows a sign of weakness, or it shows a sign that, hey, look at this drug guy, look at this crackhead, look at this alcoholic. Why should we, and poke fun of them and harass them? That's the thing that actually deters people to actually seek help. So the fact that he's got the help and got the courage to do help, I think people should be, saying, we support you. I think the Yankee organization is going to be behind him, supporting him, and that's something he needs more than anything else. Not criticism and why he waited this long to seek the help he needs. He don't need that. He needs a good social network that will help him stay sober, a good social network that he can come to talk to when he's down. And that's the big if here. If he's down, he should be able to go to his teammates or someone who's, a family member, say, I'm feeling low, I need to talk to someone, and he shouldn't have to be ashamed of that. By ridiculing the guy and caring only for the fact that he missed the playoffs, is not going to help matters, and that's the whole thing. I think, again, it was a difficult thing to deal with. It was something that he really had wrestled with, and he's finally say, this is my priority, and I give him the utmost respect for actually seeking the help he did. I really do. And with that, let's move on to my gripe with my movie going experience. Again, I will leave Spectre to my separate review. I got a lot to talk about that, both good and bad. Don't worry. For those who are James Bond fans, you will like my review. I will say this again for the second time in 3 years. My James Bond movie experience almost got messed up. And that's not because of the children. It was a big crowd, more so than, I think this was the biggest crowd that I ever have seen a James Bond movie. Because every time I always ask myself, there's not many people watching this movie. I wonder if this movie's doing good. But then again, it may be just the location of the movie theater sometimes. Sometimes people, because I normally see it doing some strange hour. I came in, I saw this movie at 8:15. And it was packed. They was playing in two theaters at the time, and both of them was packed. So I know this film's doing well, and it already smashed records in the UK. Also, I think it beat Skyfall's record. But I cannot help with that. When I sat down, it was pretty much, I had to really work hard to concentrate on watching the big screen, because every freaking minute somebody keep opening the door. Somebody's having they got the app where they have their cell phone as flashlights flashing all places so they can find out where they are. And I wouldn't probably mind it if this was during the time where they're showing stupid commercials, which I don't care for, and trailers, which gotten less and less over the years. I would have probably be less, because the movie haven't started yet. But this is during the middle of the film. Like, we're 20 minutes in, people going out their chairs to get popcorn, and then people coming in to see the film, which I'm kind of surprised, because normally theaters, after 15 minutes of the movie, they don't let you in. So there was just people going in, and what makes it even worse, you had ushers going in the theater with dustpans. You do know the movie is still playing, right? There's no reason for you to come in here with the dustpan. And they keep opening the door and closing the door and opening the door. And it would be one thing if the door was somewhere where it's not the light shining. And yeah, I was probably not in the best spot, being in one of the corners. But it's another thing when it kept doing it again and again and again. And this is going on as the film goes on. I'm like, Jesus Christ. I mean, I'm just as guilty as I was during that time frame when I saw a film I just couldn't watch. But this was becoming really much a wrecking thing. And it's like, really, guys? Seriously? I mean, could you close the door? You're holding the door. Close the damn door, please. It really was a very bad distraction. And maybe it's me. Maybe I should have picked a better chair. Maybe if I was sitting somewhere in the middle, I probably would not have gotten that problem. Because when I sit down and watch a movie, I don't get up. I make it my business not to get up in the movie unless I really have to go. Or that movie's so bad that, I can't sit another 5 minutes. I'm not coming back in the theater because it's distracting. It's not fair for the guys going in there. And I probably would have met less gripe if it wasn't for the fact that people have flashlights on their damn phone and flashing it all over the damn place. There was one guy had a retro light a disco light. Why would the hell you have the phone? I don't know, but that was the point. So it was very, 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 very a mission for me to stay focused on the movie. Um, Overall, that's pretty much my gripe about it. I'm like, wow, this movie. The movie really kept me into focusing on that and try to weave out whatever hell background that was going on at the time, including the flashes. But other than that, I kind of wish that people would stop doing that. I understand you got this toy gadget you want to show off, but you know what? They do have step lights for a reason. They do have a strip light for a reason. So that way you don't have to use your phone. There's a guy right next to me. All he was doing every 5 minutes was checking his freaking his text messages. I said, dude, that thing's flashing in my face. Come on, man. I don't get it. It really takes it really takes the movie experience out of it. These technology, at least now, certain theaters, and they are very strict. I mean, the art house theater are very strict with that. To the point where they will actually ushers will come up to you and say, "Hey, listen, turn off your phones, keep it on vibrate, if that way you won't disturb the people. But please keep your phones out of the view. Don't have it. Don't be texting during the middle of movies. If you're gonna do it, please be courteous and do not open the door all the way." These are independent films. These are independent movie theaters, art house movie theaters who are saying this. I think the AAA theaters need to start doing the same because it is a distraction. It is a not. It's very, very difficult when people keep moving back and forth and you're trying to watch a film. With that being said, that's the only real complaint. I mean, the audience overall was really into this film. They was enjoying themselves. Some wasn't. The guy who was texting his phone, pretty much, I was kind of wondering why he spent his $12 because he actually fell asleep. I'm looking around and said, "Oh, is that snoring?" I said, "Oh, no, whatever." But he did woke up after when the action came in, so who knows? But that's just my own feeling. Is guys, I know that there's camera phones now, but you really don't need to have that in the movie theater. I understand it's dark, but trust me, the theaters already got that covered. They're all stripped on the floor. You can see what's going on the floor, and you can see where the aisles are. You don't need to flash a light like that. To me, that's a distraction that doesn't need to happen. And that's it, guys. That's all I got to say about that. So, again, on the topics I brought up, do you agree, disagree? Let me know in the comment section below. I'd like to hear what you have to say. Until next time, this is Jerry77 saying, take care, be safe, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye bye.